Yes, we have a proper motion on the Energy Authority resolution by Councilman Webb. It was properly seconded by Councilman May, and there was a request for a recess to create a friendly amendment. Before we go to that resolution of an amendment, Councilman Webb, you asked to be recognized.
Yes, I'd like to hear the wording of the amendment, Bill.
Thank you to council for helping me cleanly, or more cleanly, express what I'd like to. The intent of the amendment to David is to strengthen the language, not to change any of the spirit or intent of the incorporating documents, the Articles of Incorporation. I'd like to add the following language to 8B, which is on page 5 of what has been submitted to us from Cleveland Utilities, where it says in 8B, subject to the provision of subsection C below with respect to water and wastewater, the authority shall have the authority to establish policies, rules, and regulations with respect to electric, water, wastewater services in the same manner and to the same extent as the Board of Public Utilities of the City of Cleveland exercise such authority as of the date of certificate of incorporation. I'd like to add the language to this before the last sentence in that, say, no connection to city sewer shall be allowed for any property outside the city limits unless the owners of that property submit a written request to the city for annexation, and that request is approved by council, by city council.
Councilman Webb, you're recognized.
There may be an issue with that.
Yeah.
When you say no property except by annexation, what does that do to the industrial property?
Or by referendum. We could add the words or by referendum if they're not. They got to be in our, what do you call it, urban growth boundary?
But we do have connections in our industrial property that's outside the city limits. Doug, are you still here? We don't want to tie our hands there, I don't think.
I thought we annexed the industrial property.
Not the north.
I think when you previously restricted access to the sewer system through annexation, that you had a clause in that resolution that allowed it in the case of economic development projects that were recommended by the industrial.
There's an ordinance to that effect.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if we might not ought to make reference to that ordinance in that amendment, Bill.
So the reason I was advised not to do that is because it would look like the new authority is still under our authority.
Okay.
The recommended of council was to put it black and white in their language.
Yeah, but that still works, right, Doug?
As what he read, my first reaction to that was that would exclude any future connections in
Yeah.
Hiwassee River Industrial Area.
So just add or in the industrial property or something.
Yeah,
Okay, so we have multiple discussions and multiple comments. Councilman Estes, it is your amendment, and if you can accept the addition of industrial properties to your amendment, if you could please reread the amendment for Ms. Brandon to get it into the record.
Sure. And I know she's got a copy of the first section of it over there. So the city council period, you say something, Mr. Kimball, you would say notwithstanding industrial property? How do you define that?
Mr. Barrett is correct. The document you have references economic development there at the bottom. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, I gave you that page.
Yep. Just as the city will consider annexation pursuant to expansion of the urban growth boundary if necessary, it only dates it till 2035, and we're already in 2023. So that's why, when I read it, you said that, I read this real quick, I'm kind of like, it's not strong enough here for me right now. Hey, Mr. Barry, I'm fine making this, and to my colleagues here, I'm fine making this just for residential. You know,
Yeah, that works.
just for residential.
Yeah.
I don't.
Councilman Webb, it's up to you.
I defer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councilman Webb, it'd be up to you to receive or not that friendly amendment to your motion.
My concern about just making it for residential, I don't want a large industrial development right outside the city limits. And because of something that we've done, we cannot require annexation of it. Am I complicated?
Yeah, I know, I hear you.
So there is an ordinance, 18-114. It's the sewer extension outside corporate limits, urban growth. I don't see a date, but it says, notwithstanding the provisions of sections 18-114, 1 through 3, or any other ordinance of the city, if the city council determines, based upon the recommendation of Cleveland Utilities, that the extension of sewer or sewer connection outside the city limits is appropriate for reasons of practical system design, environmental necessity, or economic benefit to the citizens of Cleveland, the city council may approve such extension or connection or approve it with conditions.
I don't think that'll fly because then we're having control over their authority again.
Well, let me consider withdrawing my motion. David, if you will withdraw your second, I will make another motion that we accept the creation of the authority for Cleveland Utilities, but we do so with an adjustment to the makeup of the utility board. There are two or three different options there. We could enlarge that board to 7, with 2 more representatives coming from the council or the mayor, or we could leave it at 5, with the next vacancy to be filled on the board by a member of the council or the mayor.
All right, Councilman Webb has removed his motion. Have you removed your second?
I remove it.
All right.
So.
Councilman Estes, do you remove your request for a friendly amendment?
There's nothing left for me to friendly amend.
Okay. Councilman Webb has restated a new motion. Councilman May, you had a question.
Actually, I haven't, Mayor.
No, I'm waiting on the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would move that we approve the authority with the expansion of the utility board to 7 members, with 2 additional members coming from the council and/or the mayor.
That is a proper motion by Councilman Webb. Is there a second?
Second.
That is a proper motion and a proper second by Councilwoman McKenzie. We are now open for comments or questions from the council.
Mayor, can I make a comment real quick? We've gone through this thing, just rushing through this thing, trying to get this thing voted on, and I'd still like to make a substitute motion if we can delay this until we come together. There's still a lot of things that we're unknown about when we're making a decision for the city. It's going to make a huge impact in the city for the years to come. Either way.
Okay, do you have a date certain on that substitute motion? Next available calendar?
I'd have to go at least 30 days to get staff enough time to do a comprehensive study and get with us more about what we're talking about now, through that process.
Ms. Brandon, what is our council schedule for the month of May?
May 8th and May 22nd.
The 22nd.
All right, so parliamentary procedure, we have a proper motion that was seconded. We have a substitute motion by Councilman Cassada to delay or roll this resolution 202328 to May 22nd. However, Councilman Cassada, that substitute motion would require a second. I'm sorry, Councilman Cassada, but your motion fails for lack of a second. We're back on the motion by Webb. It was a modified motion in support of Resolution 202328 with a change to their Board of Directors. It was seconded properly by Councilwoman McKenzie. We are back on discussion of that original motion. Are there any other questions or comments or discussion from the council?
Yeah,
Councilman Estes, you're recognized.
Ken, listen, I still would like the language from 3A. We can't get it as tight and laid out. I still would like the section from 3A in the interlocal agreement to be placed in section 8B, added to section 8B of the incorporation.
Councilman Webb, that's a request for a friendly amendment. Do you accept to your motion?
I'd like to ask Mr. Kimball if he sees any issues with that.
Mr. Councilman Webb, that language he's referring to, do you have a copy of what I handed in, the certificate, the interlocal agreements in the packet? If you look at Exhibit B, the bottom of the page, it begins water and wastewater regulations, and it goes through the top of the next page. That's the language Councilman Estes is now referring to. That's probably a better way to say it than what we were trying to do earlier. The only difference is it refers to Title 18. It just wanted to point out to you, it requires a 2/3 vote by this body, which is would be in addition to what's in the current Title 18, because it just requires a simple traditional majority.
And I really want this in the Articles of Incorporation as well as interlocal.
And that would be on the next resolution.
No,
It's already part of the interlocal.
The Articles of Incorporation are referred to in the resolution they're voting on now.
Okay.
So the two changes that would be making to the Articles of Incorporation are, instead of the 5 members, you
7.
have 7. And the second would be Councilman Estes' addition of paragraph 3A in Exhibit D, the interlocal agreement, at the bottom of page 7 through the top of page 8. That would add that language referring to Title 18 of the city code, an extension of wastewater outside the corporate.
If accepted as a friendly amendment, if not, I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Mayor, I'll accept the amendment.
All right, so we're back on the original amendment, original motion as amended. Again, it is raising the board from 5 to 7. It is adding the sections 3A Exhibit B on pages 7 through 8. We have a proper motion by Webb. It was properly seconded by Councilwoman McKenzie. I want to make sure she is understanding and acceptable of this.
Yes, Mayor, I understand that we'll be changing the committee from 5 to 7 to include another council person and you. And I understand this about the water. Yes.
Thank you. And Councilman Castor, you're asking to be recognized?
Wait a minute, I think,
Or possibly.
Councilman Webb?
Be sure there's clear understanding that those two additions come from the council or the mayor's chair.
City council.
Great.
Any of the 8 of us, correct?
Sir?
Any of the 8 of us.
Yes.
Councilman Castor, you asked to be recognized?
so let me just get this clear on this motion that we're going through. It's for the power, it's for electric, right, is what we're voting on to be an authority. Is that correct?
It's for Cleveland Utilities.
Cleveland Utilities to be, the electrical will be an authority, correct?
This resolution
It would
includes
be
all 4, everything under the authority.
CU.
Electric, water, wastewater, and broadband.
I thought water and sewer was out.
Always want to keep that.
I thought the water and sewer was out.
It's all
Well-
included.
That is the language of the resolution.
This, again, this council will lose, give up all authority of what it has. It's built for 100 years for, the city of Cleveland is built to give it authority that, I'm just gonna say this right now, we all have elections to run. And by doing this, giving the power up, there's some answers you're gonna have to answer to when it comes to that time, because when their electric bill goes up, as Mr. Tim Henderson said, they have the power to do that with a vote, 3 to 4, whatever it may be, just like this board. And then they will come back to us, council, why did our rates go up? Well, we gave it away. We gave it away, and that's nothing we can do about it. So I'm just gonna publicly say that, and I cannot support this because I think it's overstepping the boundary. It's getting, I understand the broadband, I'm good with the broadband, but when we start giving the electric away, just like I mentioned before, TVA having rates, they can raise the rates without us. They can come to us and they say, well, I'm fine, but we're gonna go ahead and raise it anyway. We got 3 people on that board. They have 4 to go along with it. We have no say in it all. We are elected officials to represent our constituents. When somebody comes to us and asks why our rate goes up, you better be ready to answer. I voted for it, I gave it away. So, that's not, I can't support this.
All right, Councilman Casta, that is a proper comment. We are back now on the motion by Webb, seconded by McKenzie, with the amendment by Estes. Are there any additional comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Webb.
Aye.
Councilwoman McKenzie.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
No.
Councilman Estes.
Aye.
Councilman Cassidy.
No.
Councilman May.
Aye.
Councilman Hughes.
Aye.
Carries 5-2.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That motion passes as amended. It takes us now to item G on the agenda, which is Resolution 2023-29. It's a resolution authorizing the approval of an interlocal agreement between the City of Cleveland and the new authority, requested by Cleveland Utilities President Tim Henderson. The materials were provided to the council and the public on April the 8th. They are in your packet, and this resolution, 2023-29, would require a motion from the council.
So moved.
It's a proper motion by Councilman,
Second.
properly seconded by Councilman Hughes. Are there any comments, questions, or discussion on the council on the interlocal agreement resolution? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman May.
Aye.
Councilman Hughes.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Johnson. Councilwoman McKenzie.
Aye.
Councilman Estes.
Aye.
Councilman Cassidy.
No.
Councilman Webb.
Aye.
Carries 6-1.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That motion passes. We took care of the item that Councilman Cassidy requested to move, the Duracell manufacturing resolution 2023-26. So that takes us to announcements. That concludes new business. The announcement is the next city council meeting will be held in this chamber on Monday, April the 24th, 2023. Are there any closing comments, questions, or concerns from the council? Hearing none,